one. So Michael Blackburn, as a result of the results from race 1, Michael Blackburn starts on pole position, which Stephanie saw this time alongside him on the front row of the grid. George Foxer could be one to watch also. He's always quick in anything he races. Third in the grid for him with Sam Watkins alongside. Then it's Spencer Lane and Dan Robertson. Dan McQuire, and I think is George Foxer's old car. And Oliver Sweetum, who, thanks to the wet qualifying results this morning, put himself on the front row of the grid, but then kind of stayed in the lead group for as much as possible. It was then fifth row of the grid for Robbie Harrison and Colin Smith alongside him. Then it's Jake Humphrey and Mark Webb, Joseph Ming and Tommy Brewley, Mark Blunt and Jessica Fitch-Hall, Graham Mallam and Ryan Matthias, Ron Lofstad and Remy Beadle. And then we have Caroline Lofstad and the two cars we lost at the end, which was Alan Darlington and Aidan Vickers, who pulled up after he had a spin or an incident of some kind exiting the final chicane towards the end of race 1 at some point. So in terms of the police spot, Michael Blackburn staying in exactly the same spot that he was on, and technically the racing line is moves across the circuit rather than being one distinctive side towards the corner, because you have to move across on the right to the left anyway. So ultimately, it all's down to their own personal style. I don't think they're going to get a benefit from a grippier side of the track, because ultimately, really, Andy, there isn't one on the front row of the grid.
No, I mean, often, especially when it's a side-by-side standing start, such as this one, often it comes down to who's the bravest at Redgate Corner, because on the opening lap particularly, when everyone's on quite cold tyres, often you want to be on the outside. You don't have to put as much steering lock into the car to get round the corner, and you can get on the power a little bit earlier with that slightly more open steering on the wider radius. So if you can be alongside the pole sitter going into Redgate and you're feeling brave, you can go right round the outside and then carry the momentum down through the Craner curves, where it then gets really sketchy on cold tyres. So, yeah, we'll wait and see what happens here. It could be an interesting first 10-15 seconds or so of the race. But Michael Blackburn, he's been here before. He knows how to defend from the front. Got his first win of the season earlier on. But Michael Blackburn, a perennial championship contender, it seems, these days in this championship, is not going to be an easy man to overtake. And, of course, there are plenty of other drivers keen to get involved. Sam Watkins had some really good pace in the second half of the race earlier on this afternoon. Just couldn't quite get himself onto terms with the leaders, so he's going to be one to watch. I think the second of those red cars, in fact George Foxlow was quick as well in the first of the two red cars that will share row number 2. Dan Robinson ought to move forward. Oliver Sweetman, of course, he lost ground, didn't he, towards the end, and I think picked up a penalty for exceeding track limits. Yes, he did. Wasn't the only one, actually. 96, Tommy Brewley also was handed a 5-second track limits penalty, so there were a few that will feel that they're a little bit out of position to start with here, and they're going to really want to try and do something about that in the early stages. Michael Blackburn there really working the tyres, warming the front tyres on a front-wheel drive car is not too much of a challenge, because the front tyres do everything. They do the majority of the braking, they handle all of the power delivery and all of the steering, of course. The rear tyres are just sort of along for the ride, and so, especially in a short wheelbase car, which can be a bit unsettled at the best of times, you really do need to try and get those rear tyres up to temperature. That's why you see the drivers often throwing the car, dragging the car across the road on the green flag lap to make sure that they have a little bit of rear grip when they go down the Craner curves for the first time. That right rear corner in particular, Scott, that's the one you struggle to warm really here. You only really turn left, which is what will warm the right side tyres, once or twice on the lap, and actually the only serious left-hand corner is the exit of the chicane. All of the other sort of proper corners, if you like, are right-handers, so that right rear tyre can take a few laps to get up to temperature, so you feel like the tyres are in the window, and then you get to the Craner curves, and all of a sudden it can very easily let loose on you.
It can, particularly with these rather stiffly sprung front-wheel drive Fiestas, so it can dance around a little bit, because if they get pushing too hard, so you watch them bouncing and bounding around, they can, if that starts happening at a place like the Craner curves, unless you find a way to really quickly correct it, as we saw in the DS3 Cup race when we saw Nick Hart having have a problem off the road, it can change very, very quickly. You know, we sort of joked about, oh, boot the throttle, but yeah, she said, you're right, it can catch too quickly. And as a result of that, it's just a slide that you can't catch, and unfortunately, you get out of control. So it's hopefully that won't happen this time, fingers crossed, but they're all lined up at the back of the grid. So we've had 9 races so far today, 1 more still to go, and fingers crossed this one's just as entertaining as the previous 9 have been all day so far.
It's got all the ingredients. I suspect this is going to be an entertaining final 15 minutes of racing of the day, hopefully interruption-free. The red lights then go on, and for the final time today, we're racing at Donington Park, and is it going to be Michael Blackburn or Stephanie Saw who gets the whole shot. There's someone stalled further back. Thankfully, they're avoided by everybody. It is going to be Blackburn with his nose ahead, I think, as we head down into Redgate for the first time. Yes, it is. Stephanie Saw slots in line in second position, and they round Redgate for the first time. That car that stalled is it's Sweetman, isn't it? It's Oliver Sweetman, who's still struggling to get going. So I think he's got a drive shaft or a clutch issue of some sort, maybe. Can't get the car going. Meanwhile, Blackburn leads. Saw second. Who is that in third position? Is that going to be Foxlow or Watkins? It's Foxlow ahead of Watkins as they round the old hairpin for the first time.
Stephanie saw a little sideways. I think she had probably a bit too much temperature in the tyres. In fact, she lost the momentum, and she thought the car was possibly sliding a little bit because she lost the apex and got wide. That's lost her pace and also 2 positions. She's lost positions to Watkins and to Foxlow down to 4th, and that's not going to help her as the safety car's been deployed, clearly because of the fact that Oliver Sweetman's car is being pushed away off the road. And ironically, I think it's been pushed off just as that car's been put into a much more safer position. So it's it might well be a very quick one-lap safety car. It does in a way benefit. One person I think would benefit is probably Stephanie Saw because she's going to stick close with the top 4. But it means now that there's going to be quite an intriguing lead group because we know Stephanie's got the pace, but she just had a bit of wayward. The car was moving around a little bit more than Michael's was, so she had a bit more grip, but just carrying a bit too much into the corner, and that's what sent it sideways and ultimately lost to the spots that she did. But Foxlow up to second now behind leader Blackburn, with Watkins in third place, Storr in 4th, and that's now Dan Robertson, championship leader, into 5th position.
Yes, it is. Having a solid weekend, Dan Robinson, but not headline grabbing as of yet, is it? And he'll be hoping to put that right now in this second race of the weekend. So Michael Blackburn leads at the end of lap 1, picks up the safety car, or is picked up by the safety car. And I think you're right. They'll probably just do a 1-lap safety car period here, but better to be safe than sorry, than especially because of where that car was. The cars, you don't want them barrelling out of the final corner to be greeted by safety car boards. That can lead to some slamming on the brakes, and with the marshals on the track, that's not a good idea. So right call probably to throw a safety car, but it should hopefully be a brief one. We'll get another chance to admire the new livery on the Jaguar, which makes its way down into the old hairpin. And Michael Blackburn, second position. Leading second, I suppose, on the road technically, with the Jaguar leading some laps here late in the day. But Michael Blackburn leads the way and is the Masters leader as well. By quite some way, actually. The next best of the Masters, I think, is Mark Blunt, isn't he? Yeah, down in 11th position. So Blackburn dominating that championship and looking good for overall championship points as well. But there's a long way to go in this one, and I think at least 4 or 5 other drivers who will feel they've got the pace to give him a run for his money here. I
do think so. Yeah, that lead group that was battling in race 1, that contained Foxlow. The top 2 was Blackburn and Saw, but the group behind for third have the likes of Foxlow, Watkins, Robinson, Lane, Smith, Macquarie as well in there too. So all of them were quite quick and able to cause people problems. Robbie Harrison was in that as well. So what's going to be frustrating here, though, is that this is a problem for somebody. There's a huge gap, and there's several cars that are not sticking with the queue, which is a bit frustrating for some of the drivers in the mix. I'm trying to work out who that is. I think it's the 67 of who's that? Not quite sure, but we'll get back to that later because more important matters. Race is back to green flag, so we'll see if they can get that happen.
Indeed so. Headlights on for George Foxlow. Look as he applies the pressure to the race leader and goes for a lunge up the inside. George Foxlow desperately late on the brakes. Too late, ultimately. Missed the apex, though. And Michael Blackburn will go back through. Does that open the door for Sam Watkins to get alongside? It does. And so the 2 red machines go door handle to door handle through the crater curves. Foxlow won't want to give this up. Hopefully the rear tyres haven't lost too much temperature. He knocks the plastic marker post down as well. That was a lively restart for Foxlow. Up into 4th place, by the way, has come down Robinson now at the expense of Stephanie Saw, who I think is just struggling for confidence slightly on cold tyres. But George Foxlow most definitely not struggling for confidence. He might not have got the lead, Scott, but that was a very good effort.
I think it was the headlight flash that did it.
No, absolutely.
Clearly, it's a clear tactic. Now he's put the indicator on. He's turning through right, and to tell everyone I am turning right. Robinson looks like he's woken up a little bit because he is now a bit more on the tail of the top 3, trying to create a little bit of a gap if he can to Stephanie Saw, who now herself has got the attention of Spencer Lane behind, who's one of the drivers who held the fastest lap at one point. Down the back straight, line astern. Blackburn from Foxlow, from Watkins, from Saw. Then Robertson 4th now. It's Saw down to 5th position. Under brakes. No one's trying a move into the chicane as they try to play a game of who can get to the tyre stack the closest. Out they go. Whoops, that is Chris Smith going wide in the 16. This will give him the chance to possibly the opportunity for Dan McQuire to go side by side, which he does, and I'm confident that is Foxlow's old car. Meanwhile, Foxlow's current car is currently being under threat from Watkins and from Robertson. In fact, Robertson threatened Watkins, so Watkins threatened Foxlow into turn 1, and none of it worked at all. It just allowed Blackburn to maintain the lead. Stephanie's gone back onto the tail of Robinson now for 4th position, back through the crane of curves. It's now Foxlow closer to Blackburn than Watkins is to Foxlow. And there goes Stephanie down the inside. Good move into the old hairpin. Goes wheel to wheel, literally wing mirror to wing mirror through the apex of the corners. A little touch. I think there was a puff of smoke. Spencer Lane tries to bully his way up the inside as well and almost makes that happen. And they've now got off into 3 trios. You've got the lead 3 of Blackburn, Foxlow and Watkins. Oh, and Foxlow sends it in towards McLean's. Opens the door forcefully for St Watkins to get through. That was a move and a half from George Foxlow. One of the moves of the weekend so far. Excellent stuff. Was not taking any prisoners and thought, I screwed up at Redgate. I ain't screwing up here. Out the way you go, Michael. I'm taking the lead. Brilliant from George.
They didn't really give Michael Blackburn much of an option there, did he? But to steer out of that, because I think he was going to be through the driver's door. Otherwise, that was a very aggressive move. It brings Watkins with him, although Blackburn is back to the inside of the second place man now into the chicane. Tricky to go side by side through here. He makes it stick. Good move. But this is brilliant news for Foxlow, who is starting to get away now from this battling pack for second position. So George Foxlow, the new race leader, with a very bold and brave move up at McLean's corner, and Michael Blackburn in second. It's 3 abreast then for third. Robinson, Saw and Sam Watkins all debating the bottom step of the podium, and Stephanie goes rally crossing out of Redgate, but I think should be able to get back in line before losing another position. No, not quite. That is going to be a place lost then to Daniel McQuire, wasn't it? I think who came through in the number 11, and maybe more as well. The 17 now, Spencer Lane to the inside. It's well, no holds barred stuff in this one so far.
I think they've been waiting for this one, haven't they? After the action from race 1, they think, right, let's put on a show for the last one of the day. Now it's calming down a tiny bit at the front. Foxlow has clear track, but Blackburn has his sights set on reclaiming that position. There's a scrap for third. They turn their way through. They're the wide for McQuire, as he now has Spencer Lane on his back bumper. I think Stephanie Saw might be under threat from losing another place, because she's now having to defend from Chris Smith into the right hand at Coppice. And if anything looks like just ahead of them, Blackburn is edging closer and closer to the back bumper of Foxlow in the slipstream, down towards the chicane once again. This is on the 3rd time of asking after the restart. And he is getting closer. The momentum he's carrying is really good as the car bounces around over the curves. That's how hard Blackburn's pushing. He's determined to get himself back to the front of this field as we go past the halfway distance. And with the new fastest lap of the race, he was 6/10 quicker. No wonder Blackburn's in contest for the lead again. He is on it to try and get it back past Foxlow. I think he's a bit fired up after being practically shoved, not literally, but practically shoved out of the way at McLean's through no fault of his, through no choice of his own.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, George Foxlow, he's set the example now, hasn't he? If that's how he's going to race Michael Blackburn, then Michael will be thinking, well, I'm well within my rights to do the same thing to you. So, not saying that George did anything wrong. It was a brilliant move. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but he can't really now complain if Michael Blackburn decides to create a gap up the inside of the 144 car where there otherwise wasn't one. So, Blackburn went with good pace. Obviously, these cars, again, they're not the most powerful. They're not very aerodynamic, so there is a fairly sizable slipstream effect that you get from these things. That will be helping Blackburn, but can he use that to make a pass? We'll wait and see. Good battling going on here a little bit further back as well, including the number 3 of Jessica Fitch Hall, I believe, in this group. We've also got the who is that in the group 33, which is Mark Blunt. So this is all going on for about 10th position. I think they're battling 10th or 11th as they crest the hill at Coppice Corner. Bit of trim hanging off the back of Mark Blunt's car, but that won't be slowing him down too much. Makes his way down into the chicane once more. So 5 minutes and 40 seconds to go, and the leaders cross the line as we approach 2/3 race distance, and the lead gap static that time.
Yep, no change. Still 0.3 of a second between the two of them, but you can see Robinson's also into the fray now. Top 3 covered only by just under half a second as we're looking at the number 3 car of Jessica Fitch Hall going through the chicane, followed by the 5 of Graham Mallon. the Durley Garage sponsored cars, and now it's on for second place. Robinson was close. Now he's going wheel to wheel. It gives Foxler a little bit of breathing space as these two go side by side for second place, and over the curb on the outside line towards the old hairpin. Can he get driving around the outside? Blackburn doesn't really let him do it too easily. This will now give Watkins the chance to come back at him as well, and he just arrives on the scene in third position, or in fourth, going for third. Robinson has his nose in front and has got second place. Question mark. He has got it now, because this now means that Blackburn's more focused on trying to get involved here. And also, I'd look at Daniel McQuire just behind in fifth position. He's also not too far away from getting involved in this. If he plays his cards right, he could be in contention, fighting for a podium. This is the top 8 altogether, but Foxlow trying to create that distance through the right-hander of McLean's and Coppice, and up now onto the back straight past the exhibition centre and down towards the chicane again. Now it's side by side between McQuire and Lane for fifth position. So Lane in black and white, McQuire in the blue car with the yellow flashes on the A pillars, which is, I'm pretty certain that is George Foxlow's old car. You don't keep saying that, but it looks very much akin to it. To come through. And then the next couple of cars, which is Humphrey and Harrison, rounding off the top 10 as we go into the final 4 minutes of this race. And apart from Foxlow escaping up the road, second place backwards shows zero signs of slowing down or calming down whatsoever.
Yeah, well, but will Foxlow be able to continue to pull away now that it's Dan Robinson into second place? That's the next question that needs answering. We'll keep an eye on the lap times over the next lap or so. But it's not really going Michael Blackburn's way, this, is it? He's been shuffled down now, the order a little bit, into third position. And he's got Sam Watkins not far behind. He's completely sideways, Blackburn, there as he pitches the car into the old hairpin, where a lap ago Dan Robinson made maybe the move of the day to go around the outside of Blackburn through the old hairpin. That requires a huge amount of respect between both drivers to do that, to trust that the car to the inside isn't going to suddenly bang into you and knock you off the road, but they kept it clean. And Robinson was able to go through into second place a lap ago. As there, Stephanie Saw tries her best to keep hold of that position. The 11 car, Daniel McQuire behind her now, actually, so she's got into 6th position on this lap, has Stephanie. Is that lead gap coming down? It was 1.25 seconds at the start of the lap. Blackburn's definitely sort of spurring Robinson on, isn't he? He's not being dropped by Dan Robinson, but I think that might be under a second now, Scott.
It's looking like it's come down by a little bit, but not by a massive amount. We'll have to wait and see. So it was 1.2, cross line, yeah, it come down 0.8. It's come down by less than a second, so you're absolutely right. So down the straight they go. He was quicker by, 4 tenths, because the last lap was a 1:26.0 for Foxlow, 1:25.5 for Robinson, and he brought Blackburn with him on a 25.8. Aidan Vickers out of the race, sadly. He's stopped somewhere around the circuit. And Stephanie Saw there was trying to have a look at McQuire, in fact, actually has now put herself under threat from Chris Smith for 7th place. And Robinson is just getting steadily closer, trying to carry a little more speed through the old hairpin. Stephanie Saw trying to defend from Chris Smith. He does go driving around the outside and relieves her of another position. So that is now her down to 8th position as a result. And not just closing the gap, that is definitely Dan Robinson charging after George Fox. So he's dropping Blackburn and leaving him in the clutches of both Watkins and Spencer Lane. And now Lane goes into combat with the former champion in Fiestas for 4th position. But Robinson now, as they're about to start the last lap of the race, we see this battle continue to go on between Watkins and Lane. Out in front, Robinson, that ain't 8 tenths per second anymore. This is far from over, the lap to go. Yeah,
well, he's well within slipstreaming range now, so by the time they arrive at the chicane, I think it might be less than a Fiesta's length between them. Here they come onto the brakes. He's really gapped Blackburn on this lap as well, so Blackburn falling away now from the leading two. Foxlow carried good speed there through the chicane, and Dan Robinson is now going to have just the 1 lap left to try and have a go and steal the victory away from George Foxlow, who put in a pretty feisty move of his own to get the lead. The left-hand side headlight there flashing a bit loose on, flapping a bit loose, on George Foxlow's car. Sam Watkins has slipped down the order now as well, hasn't he? He's just lost a couple of positions, I think, as they came past the timing line. So he had a poor run maybe out of the final turn. For the final time, though, the leaders head down into the old hairpin. Look at the way they back the cars in here, particularly Robinson, who was very aggressive over the inside curb. And there is Lane looking into 4th position. So actually, it's not that Watkins has fallen down the order. It's that Spencer Lane has gained 2 or 3 positions over the last few laps. And he's up into P4 with half a lap to go.
It really is. And I noticed on the approach to the chicane last time that Spencer again properly backing it into McLean's as he slides through to hold off Watkins. But I noticed that Robinson he braked a little early because he wanted to get a much more speed carried through the chicane to get a better run onto the straight. Didn't quite work out the way he hoped, and he's trying to get close. He might get closer by a little more down the back straight towards the chicane. But I have a feeling, Annie, as they come into the chicane for the final time of racing today, it might be a little bit too little, too late. Yeah,
not quite going to get there, is he? Oh, there's traffic ahead. This could be interesting, exiting the final chicane, but I think it should be all right. George Foxlow then, with a brilliant move halfway through the race to get the lead, is going to win the race. A victory for George Foxlow. Dan Robinson second, Michael Blackburn third, and it will be Spencer Lane in fourth. Fifth on the road was Sam Watkins, but he was handed a 5-second track limits penalty on the final lap, and he'll drop down to 8th as a result. So Daniel Maguire will gain a position, as will Colin Smith and Stephanie Saw as a result of that. Watkins 8th, 9th position then for the 51 of Jake Humphrey. And Aidan Vickers, now he came into the pit lane at one point. He stopped on track, didn't he?
Yeah.
Stopped on track.
And of all places, in exactly the same spot he stopped in race 1.
Yes. Was that car there for the last lap or two of the race then, I wonder? Yeah, it must have been, I suppose. So Vickers then off at the chicane. And that's an unfortunate day for Aidan, who's going to try and bounce back in race 3, which will take place quite early tomorrow. Second race of the day at about 20 past 11 tomorrow morning. So an exciting race then. Very exciting race to finish the day. And George Foxlow with the move of the day, I would say. Up the inside of Michael Blackburn at McLean's corner is going to claim the victory. And Daniel Robinson with some valuable points in second. Blackburn, I think, will be a bit disappointed to have ended up third there. But still good points in the bank, and that is the way Michael Blackburn tends to go about his racing, just consistently racking up the points, and he's always there or thereabouts in the championship come the end of the season. There were a couple of others, by the way, that have been given penalties on the last lap, including Daniel Maguire. So actually Stephanie Saw inherited 2 positions as a result of that, and 3 positions because Blackburn was given a penalty too. So Michael Blackburn, here I am saying he scored some good points for third place. That's not the case.
And it also promotes Spencer Lane up to third place too. So, of course, on top of that, it promotes Smith to 4th and Chris Smith up to 4th place. That's quite intriguing. It's good to see him getting up the order. And, of course, Steffi into a top 5. So, a second out of top 5 is not too bad. I think someone's have to quickly tell Michael Blackburn, you ain't stopping in third place because you'll have to move him on. And you might be confused, but it'll have to be explained the reason why.
Yes, this could be interesting, couldn't it? Let's get the camera ready down in the Parc Fermé area. George Foxlow then wins, Daniel Robinson second, and Spencer Lane inherits third after that penalty for Michael Blackburn. Colin Smith was 4th ahead of Stephanie Saw, whilst Blackburn will be even more disappointed now to finish 6th. Sam Watkins 7th, Daniel Maguire 8th, 9th Jake Humphrey, and 10th Robbie Harrison ahead of Mark Webb and Tommy Bruley in 12th position. He, remember, got a penalty in race number 1. Joseph Ming also received 5 extra seconds at the end there. He was 13th ahead of Mark Blunt and Jessica Fitch-Hall, then Graham Malem, Ryan Matthias, Alan Darlington, Ron Lufstad and Caroline Lufstad, the last of the finishers with Aidan Vickers, Remy Beadle and Oliver Sweetman all failing to finish. Of course, Sweetman essentially failing to start with the car not getting off the line at the start of the race. So a dramatic end to the day, and George Foxlow nets himself a race victory. He's pretty happy, I would say, and he's